Today, we're doing a recap of Get Out 2017, a gripping psychological thriller that tackles race, privilege, and the dark side of America's most twisted social dynamics. Let's dive right into it. The movie opens on a suburban street at night, where a black man is walking alone, talking on the phone. A car pulls up, and sensing trouble, he starts to walk away. But before he can get far, a helmeted figure tackles him, subdues him, and drags him into the car, driving off into the darkness. We then meet Chris Washington, a black photographer, heading upstate New York for a weekend getaway with his white girlfriend, Rose Armitage, to meet her family. Rose reassures Chris that everything will be fine, but Chris can't shake the feeling that something's not quite right. Upon arrival at the Armitages' isolated country estate, Chris is greeted by Dean, a neurosurgeon, and Missy, a psychiatrist. Their overly polite but awkward behavior immediately makes Chris feel uncomfortable. Rose's brother Jeremy shows up, and his inappropriate remarks about Chris's physique and background increase the tension. As the evening progresses, Chris starts to notice the strange behavior of the family's black servants, Georgina and Walter. They act unnaturally, making him more suspicious. Later, Missy convinces Chris to undergo a hypnotherapy session to help him quit smoking. She uses the sound of a spoon stirring in a teacup as a trigger, and soon, Chris falls into a trance. During the session, he reveals deeply buried guilt about his mother's death when he was a child. Missy uses this vulnerability to send Chris into the Sunken Place, a terrifying mental void where his consciousness is trapped, leaving his body paralyzed. The next day, dozens of wealthy white guests arrive for the Armitages' annual get-together. At the party, Chris is made to feel increasingly uncomfortable by the guests' awkward, racially charged comments. It's clear they don't see him as a guest, but rather as a novelty. Chris meets Jim Hudson, a blind art dealer who takes an interest in his photography. He also encounters Logan King, another black man at the party. Like Georgina and Walter, Logan behaves strangely, and he's married to a much older white woman. When Chris takes a photo of Logan, the flash causes Logan to become agitated, shouting at Chris to get out, before Dean rushes in and explains it away as a seizure. The strange behavior continues when the guests hold a silent auction, with Chris as the prize. Hudson bids the highest for him, and Chris begins to suspect that something is deeply wrong. He sends a photo of Logan to his friend Rod, a TSA officer, who quickly recognizes Logan as Andre Hayworth, a missing person from Brooklyn. Chris starts digging deeper into Rose's past, discovering disturbing photos of her with numerous black people, including Walter and Georgina, contradicting her claim that he's the first black person she's ever dated. Chris tries to leave, but Rose refuses to give him the car keys. Jeremy blocks the door, and Missy uses the hypnotic trigger to send Chris back into the Sunken Place. He wakes up in the basement, strapped to an armchair, and watches a chilling video from Hudson, explaining the Armitages' horrific plan. The family transplants the brains of their wealthy white friends into the bodies of others to acquire their desired physical characteristics. Hudson's intention is to transplant his own brain into Chris's body, seeking to gain Chris's exceptional eyesight. Meanwhile, Rod, who has been trying to contact Chris and is growing increasingly suspicious, visits the police, but they dismiss his concerns. Chris, still paralyzed, waits for his next moment to escape. Missy tries to hypnotize him again, but this time, Chris blocks the trigger by stuffing cotton in his ears. He breaks free, fights off Jeremy, kills Dean and Missy, and inadvertently causes a fire that presumably burns Hudson alive. In a desperate attempt to escape, Chris steals Jeremy's Porsche, but in the chaos, he hits Georgina, who has the brain of Rose's grandmother, Mary Ann. Despite his impulse to leave, Chris returns to help her, but Georgina attacks him, causing a crash that kills her. Rose and Walter, now controlled by Roman's brain, arrive to capture Chris. In the final struggle, Chris uses his phone's flash to briefly free Walter. Walter then shoots Rose dead before fatally shooting himself. Chris, filled with rage and a desire for justice, starts strangling Rose, but a police car pulls up. Chris surrenders, but it's Rod who emerges, rescuing him from the nightmare. The film ends with Chris and Rod driving off into the night, leaving Rose bleeding on the road. The tension breaks, but the chilling events of the weekend will stay with Chris forever. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more recaps. This has been The Tipsy Critic. See you next time.